Thank you, and a good afternoon to all of you. It's a pleasure to be here in this program organized by Global Eye and my dear friend Dr. Parvez Hayat. Uh, First of all, I think it's immediately after the budget, there's been a lot of discussion on how India is moving forward and how do we move forward to a 5 trillion economy. And last year we had actually brought out a document which which indicated how our digital economy would actually be able to contribute about $1 trillion to the GDP by 2025. And we estimate that by 2024, for which the overall goal is set as a $5 trillion economy, that we should aim to get to something like between 750 to 800 billion dollars. So some of the key aspects that I would like to mention are the strengths that we have been able to build over the past many years, beginning with the strength of the IT sector. Ms. Riddhi Adlakha is here from TCS. TCS is one of the very phenomenally successful and huge companies that has come out in India. Along with it are other big warriors like Infosys, Wipro, HCL, and also the Tech Mahindra, and a large setup which has, in spite of many difficulties, continued to grow at about 8 to 10% even in this difficult period when growth is difficult to come by across the globe. Along with that, I think we have started moving into the software products domain. So far we have had our strength in software services. We have been moving into the software products domain from a very low footprint in electronics manufacturing. We have been able to build a significant momentum in electronics manufacturing, and yesterday one of the highlights of the budget was a scheme that Honorable Finance Minister has mentioned to give a huge impetus to manufacturing, and this time it will be manufacturing for exports. It will not just be manufacturing for consumption in India. Over the past 5 years, we have built significant momentum in building electronic products for India, and many of them go towards import substitution. Instead of simply importing, for instance, mobile phones, a very large number of mobile phones today get assembled in India rather than being imported from outside. From about 6 crore mobile handsets that used to be produced in India in 2014-15, last year we had been able to move to 29 crores, almost a 5-fold increase in 4 years. So this is the momentum that we hope to build on, and this time take it into figures that go into exports rather than only into the Indian market. And some of the biggest brands, some of the best brands in the world today are all manufacturing in India, and that's again a very significant foundation that we can build on. A very large number of projects have been implemented in the area of e-governance. Projects like Aadhaar and in passports, in almost every domain of our activity, whether it is in health, it is in agriculture, it is in education, or it is in delivery of the services around land records and many of the other services that are required in distribution of seeds, fertilizers, subsidies of various kinds. We have seen large projects grow in India. What I would like to point out is the experience with building of public digital platforms, starting with Aadhaar. And the kind of investment that goes into such a platform and the kind of returns that we are able to see as a country. So in Aadhaar, right from the inception, we would have ended up spending only about less than $1 a person to be able to initially build the platform. And the overall expenditure so far over these past many years, again, is probably another $1 over so many years that we have operated this platform. And the returns are humongous. On the direct benefit transfer alone, which is fueled primarily by having an Aadhaar platform in place, the savings are estimated as 1.71 lakh crores. So that is the strength of public digital platforms. There is another massive public digital platform that has taken shape just in the past 3.5 years. That is the UPI, the Unified Payments Interface. Unified Payments Interface started sometime in the middle of 2016. By September 2016, it was generating about 1 lakh transactions in a month. At that point of time, the debit cards, which are used for making digital payments, were accounting for about 32 crore transactions in a month. From that 32 crores, it has grown to about 42 crores now. In the same time, UPI, from almost a very small beginning, has come to 130 crore transactions in a month, leaving well behind this huge system of debit as well as credit cards in terms of number of transactions. A very lightweight, a very convenient, low-cost instrument created as a public digital platform, and suddenly, systems that have taken shape over many decades are left behind in terms of number of transactions, in terms of speed, in terms of convenience, in terms of availability of the service to each and every person. So these are serving as examples which now I think it's a time that we start applying the same principles in agriculture and primary sector, in education, in healthcare, in transportation, in energy, in pollution control and environment. Almost every sector can benefit from getting these public digital platforms in place and consolidating the work that has been done in taking e-governance services to improve delivery of digital services to the people. So these are some of the strengths that we have, that we are planning to build on. And talent is finally the primary resource that we need to bank on. A huge talent, amazing talent, a massive demographic dividend. And this is the decade in which that really starts becoming visible. The kind of numbers that we are able to generate, I think the IT companies, of course, are have witnessed that, and not just witnessed that, but made tremendous use of the availability of this almost bottomless pool of talent. It's a limitless pool of talent. Whatever numbers we need to come up with, it's possible for India to come up with those numbers. And now with the Future Skills platform, we expect that in emerging technologies as well, we will have similar very large numbers reaching the levels of competencies that help them provide these services in data analytics, in artificial intelligence, in natural language processing, in blockchain, in AR and VR, in drones and robotics, robotic process automation, in IoT, and eventually in whatever needs to be harnessed through the implementation of 5G as well. So these are some of the directions we look at to help us propel our economy from it used to be just $200 billion of contribution as a net contribution to the GDP in 2017-18. And from that, the aspiration in 8 years' time is to take it to $1 trillion. So it's a huge aspiration. It's a 5 times growth that we are aspiring. And that, to my mind, can actually be done not just by growth of the existing tech sectors of the economy, which make use of digital technologies like the IT, software products, e-commerce, digital payments, electronics, manufacturing, telecom, but also application of all the new technologies, all the existing and new technologies to the traditional sectors of the economy. About half of the growth will come as an organic growth of the existing sectors which we know are IT and electronics sectors, and about half of it will come by applying these new technologies to agriculture, to education, to healthcare, to logistics, to transportation, to energy, and to all the other traditional sectors of the economy. It is not digital sector that has to grow. It is the traditional economy that has to grow, embracing digital technologies, becoming digital, becoming increasingly digital. And that is the primary direction which can help us move forward as a confident, digitally empowered nation. So these were my thoughts.